from Adrian's yestermorrow. So we had Drew weighing in with the community nonprofit, and Aaron, of course, and Ann, and we also had Adrian in there present or answering questions. So it was a long discussion. The structure in question for their garden project, they've got something else in mind. So I think it's going to come before this committee as to whether we want the structure that the Yestermorrow would construct for the recycling, and it sounds like we might. But anyway, that was the discussion, and there were a lot of good information.
Jim,
and it's gonna, yes.
Could I just interrupt? Sorry, I skipped over public comment.
Oh,
So
okay.
We'll go back to public comment after number 1. Sorry, everybody.
That's okay. Where was I? I kind of got derailed there. But anyway, Yestermorrow, it was good discussion. It's going to cost about $3,000 to $5,000 for whoever purchases or buys into this project of Yestermorrow's. That's just for the materials. They pay for the instructor. And but anyway, it'll come before us, I'm sure, at some point, if not tonight. There was a lot of information there, a lot of information about the recycling and so forth. We talked about the grants. I've got, I think everyone on the council received a copy of the narrative I sent out. I don't know if you read it, but it was pretty fundamental. It's just a portion of the total cost of the fire suppression system to the tune of the 500 square feet set aside for the Bluff area source literature archive. And so that's equivalent of about $50,000 worth of the fire suppression system. So that's last week I mentioned $100,000, but when I actually did the square footage, it looks like I'll see what they say. I mean, it's an optional preliminary narrative you send in, and then they let you know if it's worthwhile to really apply for it in January. So as I find out, I'll let people know. Other than that, let me think here. We talked a lot about a little bit about the ECHLA's grant. It seems to be, there's a password to the portal that David Conine has and we don't have. And so I think a point that came out was that it's not sensible to talk so much about applying for money unless we have a plan for what we're going to do with the money, as we do with the fire suppression system. So until we see a design, we should be really focusing on that. And there was a little bit of discussion there. The business owners of Bluff had requested the use of the playground to launch balloons, and that was denied really on the basis that we don't want to jeopardize our septic system over there at all. And I know it would be policed and all that, but there are lots of places to launch balloons around Bluff, and I don't think, there's a question of the restrooms, and we'd have to seal off the rest of the building if we were to use the restrooms and so forth. So we just thought it was safer just to go safer for the septic system just to deny that. So that occurred, and I think we talked a little bit about Pathway, who has contacted David Conine for an interview. They still have not obtained the interviews that they're looking for, and they're seeking to do it at some point, to finish this off. And I guess there's going to be some productive interviewing, I hope, this week, maybe tomorrow, with David Conine and whoever from UDB. So that was that. Does that kind of capture what we were looking for there, Mayor?
I think it does. One of the things, going back to the Yestermorrow proposal, working with the Bluff Community Foundation, which is newly formed. I think that between this request and a couple other requests we've had for funding, that we need to really talk as a council and set a policy about how we fund non-governmental requests for things like the business owners of Bluff, or the recycling request, or yes tomorrow. And I know nobody wants to do a work session, but I do think that this is something we should do sooner rather than later. So I would like to do it in December, but I know that that's not going to be doable. So I'd like you to think about January. So next week we could pick a date for a work session, and this would be one of the things. What is our policy for granting or denying a request for funding? Does that make sense to everyone?
It does.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's going on next week's agenda, to pick a date for a work session for a couple of things.
I have a quick question for Jim, or maybe all of you that were there, just on the balloon launching. And I may have misunderstood, but I didn't think they wanted to use the school, and that they just wanted to have the gates open and be able to lay out there and launch. They can all go to the community center or their houses and rooms and whatnot. So I might be mistaken, but I think they just wanted the flat space.
Is that?
Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say that was our understanding too in the committee's discussion, but going in and having trucks and launching off where the septic system is, the general discussion was that we preferred not to do it as a committee. And then I raised the question of, a lot of times people want bathrooms open, and that's not easily doable in that building. But the main thing is the septic. We all talked about the driving over the septic and having vehicle control.
Okay.
I definitely agree with the request from yestermorrow. It is not a town, it's a citizen group. And if we did entertain that, before we did, I would really like to see recycling start. I don't think it's just my opinion, but I don't know that we need to build bins and things first for it to start. I would really like to get it start and running, and before we think about investing money, but that's just my opinion.
Well, that's why I think it's a bigger discussion, Linda, for a work session, not only generically requests and policies, but also specifics. Like, there's a lot more information around the recycling than Jim and Aaron and I are sharing right now, because it really is a work session topic. It's got 6 entities involved in the recycling. So, and then there's 2 of us wearing a couple different hats. We're there as residents on the recycling committee, and then we're there as a liaison to the council and the DRC, and then me. And it's just a really bigger discussion. So thanks for raising that, Jim.
Yeah, I agree, Linda. Thank you. I understand your feelings on that. I'm starting to sense, though, that if we want this recycling thing to be as successful as we might, it is going to bear a little bit of discussion, because the planning is going to be really important. This might turn out to be a big deal. I mean, there might be a real response and get a lot of recycling materials. So we need to kind of think about capacity, I think.
So the second part of number 1 is the joint checking account. The DRC on December 6th in the previous meeting approved recommending the name, Cooperative Culture Center for the checking account. And so we need to vote yes or no on that name for the checking account. UDB hopefully is doing the same vote.
Move to accept.
Second.
Any discussion? Any alternatives you want to throw out? Then all in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All right.
Anyone opposed? Again, the name on the checking account will be Cooperative Culture Center. That allows Linda to go forward, and then we will need to next week decide on the who the signatories are for that checking account. It can't be Linda, so or Grant. It would need to be one of the three of us. All right, moving along back up to the public comment that I skipped over. Apology. There will be a 3-minute time limit for each person wishing to comment. If you exceed that 3-minute limit without permission from the mayor, the meeting controller will mute you. So again, apologies. Is there anyone who'd like to make a public comment? And if so, either unmute or let us know somehow. I'll wait a minute to be sure that no one's just having trouble unmuting or raising their hand or whatever we do. Jim Hook, go ahead.
Thank you. I just wanted to let the community know that my proposal, my request for extension of the alley at West 6th Street to the Guyman Ranches, the town is going to have a special meeting about that and the other alleys in town. And I thank you for taking this issue up, and it's going to be a big one. And I hope for a lot of town comment and council action on this. Thanks.
Thanks, Jim. Anyone else? All right. Then we'll move to number 2. Jim, this is also yours. Update on the National Endowment for Arts grant, also known as Sustaining Cultural Heritage Collections.
Yeah, this is the Bluff area source literature project that I've talked about before, and actually the council has gotten pretty much a descriptive 3 pages of a narrative, almost 3 complete pages that I sent into the National Endowment for the Humanities. This is really to preserve cultural collections and local collections. I think that I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this, but I think that Bluff has a history and a prehistory and a history of cultural contact here that whatever is written and whatever we can obtain that has been obtained through oral interviews, I think it's worth collecting here. There are insights in research that are gained by people going to the actual location where these events took place, and certainly Bluff merits, of all places that I've ever seen for its size, it certainly merits a humanities collection, if any place does. So that's the only sales pitch that I'm making on that. The connected to that is Debbie's request or maybe inquiry as to whether or not the town wishes to fund a series of webinars and actually a few in-person, not lectures, but I don't know what you'd call them. They were also sent out by Debbie, but they're being sponsored by the Utah Humanities Council, which takes NEH money and distributes it to local state projects. And it's really, I think it's free. Maybe there might be a small charge, but if we would like to get a couple of people involved in that, do you want me to send out a blast to the town, or Linda, or to solicit volunteers? I think Debbie might be willing to volunteer. I don't know about Kathy Carson. If anyone, I see Kathy is on, maybe she can speak to that. But it would be a monthly webinar, and you'd get training in archiving and actually probably preserving these same records that we've been talking about. So It's a great deal. It's a great training, and I think it's needed. We've got a lot of historical materials already that are being filed. So what do we do with those? How do we preserve those for the future is the question.
So I need to, if I'm going to spend the whole night apologizing, apparently. I was going to get a blast out and I didn't. So Jim, if you want to do the blast, that would be great. I'm just pulling up the information right now. I think most of it was free, but there was a slight, small, 12 free webinars held monthly. And then a 2-part regional workshop of $10. So if you would do the blast, the first kickoff is January 5th at Edge of the Cedars, and tell the community that they should send in just an email saying that they're interested. And I would like to move that we set aside $100 to be able to get people started, so we don't have to bring this back to vote on the money part of it.
Yeah, would that include the $10 to secure the place with the advanced registration on the regional workshops?
Right, so that people could get started.
Yeah. I'll second that.
Any discussion, any other comment? Then all in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
Jim, Mayor, I love the idea of this local source thing. I think it's the heart of Bluff. So I totally am behind the idea of this cultural. We've got many collections that really belong in Bluff. So I think it's very, very exciting.
Thank you, Brad. I'm really excited about it too. I think it's really cool. Thanks. Thanks for the votes.
So Jim, if you write it up, I'll blast it for you.
You got it. I'll get it. Thank you.
All right, then moving to number 3, update on the AmeriCorps Gold team's work in the community. The Gold 5 is wrapping up their stay here. They leave on Saturday, this coming Saturday. Friday, they'll clean up the mission, get themselves packed up. This Thursday night, we're having dinner for them at the community center at 7:00 p.m. It's just a informal small dinner put on by the council and the mission sponsors to thank them for their work. And let's see, trying to think back to the last update. They did another round of giant cane, and they worked today on the tiny houses. Tomorrow they'll work on tiny houses. Thursday they'll go to Farmington for a trip for food distribution to the Navajo Nation. And then Friday they leave. Or Friday they clean up and Saturday they leave. Now tonight I got a very interesting, fun request from the team. The team has requested after the dinner that they be allowed to stay overnight and do a sleepover at the community center, which I think is just cool. I don't think we need to vote on it, but if someone on the council has a rational reason why we can't say yes, we have to clean it anyway. There's nobody renting it on Friday until pickleball at 4. They'll be out in the morning because they have to clean up and pack up. So I think it's kind of cool. So
Yeah.
hearing no objection.
Let's do it. That's great.
Yeah.
We should let Malia know so that she can turn the heat on.
I did.
Okay.
I made an executive decision. I couldn't imagine why any of us would object to letting them continue hanging around there. My guess is they'll play basketball and ping pong, and the piano's there. Several of them play the piano, so I think it would be very fun. Otherwise, that's the update on AmeriCorps Gold 5. We had a good dinner last night with them, and yeah, onward and upward to their next station, I guess. Then number 4, update on the Bluff Airport management and a vote on a request by Jim Hook. And Jim, I know you're on, so go ahead and take it away.
Thank you, council. Well, I was requested, I don't know, several years ago when we um, obtained the airport into the town of Bluff to give an update once in a while, 6 months, once a year, whatever. And that's kind of what this is. I have 3 things to mention tonight. One is a NOTAM, NOTAM, Notice to Airmen. This is a thing that the manager of the airport or the airport, whoever is in charge, would post through the Federal Aviation Administration if we need to close the airport. If we're having an event, if we're going to do construction on the airport, you do a NOTAM to inform pilots who are making their plans that the airport is closed or there's some special situation going on. The mayor and I are the 2 individuals in Bluff who are authorized to make a NOTAM request, and the mayor and I both have that information. In the past, that has been through Cedar City, the control center at Cedar City. We'd call and let them know what's going on, and they would issue that. This last, I guess it was last month, the FAA has asked for an amendment to that agreement, because sometimes you say, yep, our airport's closed starting at 6 o'clock this morning, and people are already in the air and people are already going. And so Denver Control Center has asked that Bluff, along with a whole bunch of other airports, make a phone call as soon as we know, and that will get out to pilots way ahead of the other. And so that looked like an administrative thing. I made the agreement and signed it. And so I'm responsible, and in my demise, the mayor is responsible with many things to let Denver know that we're closing the airport. The second thing is that I may be doing a NOTAM soon. I spent the afternoon working on my brush hog so I can mow the airport, hopefully in the next day or 2. Really, after we got it under control, it's just grass along the edge. It's pretty nice process. I've been kind of under the weather here for the last 3 weeks or so, but I'm starting to feel better and hope to get out to get that done in the next couple of days. And so I would issue a NOTAM to say that the airport is closed because there's some guy on a little tractor out there mowing the edges of it, and I don't want a B-57 to land while I'm doing that. Part of that second is that we had Steve Helgerson mow the airport, 2 years ago, I think, when we really needed to get caught up on some of the work out there. And he took the big blue tractor and the big brush hog out and mowed it. The machine was pretty heavy. It did some damage, in my opinion, to some of the slopes on the side of the runway. And that's been healed up now. And I think we paid him $400 for that half a day of mowing out there. Okay, I've mowed it 3 times and we'll be mowing it again in the next week at no charge with my equipment for the town of Bluff, and as part of what I feel is my responsibility. Okay, that brings me to the third thing. I've saved you a lot of money on that, by the way. We got a note from our engineer, Jviation, Jviation. These are the engineers that set it up. We adopted them after the county that did the runways and the tie downs and all that kind of thing. And they are our engineers. We have a request, and that's been taken over by Wolf. What is it? Let's see. It's called Wolpert Company. You know, little companies get sold to big companies, and so Jviation is an underling of Wolverton Engineering. You might remember that we had a drone overflight the Utah Aviation Administration sent a drone to do a complete inventory, an amazing thing of the condition of our airport, along with all the rest of them in the county and in Utah. And it came up that there's a lot of cracks out there on our asphalt that are 1 inch to 2 inches wide. And so we're going to be needing to do some work. Kirk from Javiation sent a letter and said that the state wants to advance that project by a year or two, meaning in 2023, he would like to apply for a grant from the state and the Federal Aviation Administration to do a redo of the airport. This is going to be crack sealing, filling in some of the big areas that are having the most damage, and a repainting of the thing. The total ticket's going to be around $100,000. The state and the feds will put in 90% of that, and they'd like the town to commit to 10%. $11,000 to $12,000 is what I kind of figure it will be. And so I'm asking the town to take a vote, considering that I've mowed the airport at least 3 times, and to commit to that, our share of that, so that the engineer can go ahead and apply for that grant.
Motion to approve.
Motion to do that, Mayor.
I second the motion. Nope.
Yeah.
Okay, who made the motion?
Brent beat me to it. I'll second it.
Okay, so I have a question, Jim, before we take the vote. Remember back in April or so, you and I talked about the lease, whether the BLM and whoever has to sign off on any extensions on our lease. And I received a note from Jake Palma, who's now the field manager for Monticello BLM. And he said, and I don't know if this ties to updating the lease or if it's just information, but he said that Norbert Norton
Right.
says that we need to have a cadastral survey of the airport, and that the survey is done by the state office. The request has been made, and Jake is following up with this. Now, this is how much I know, so everybody has to hope that Jim Hook continues way past me, because I don't want responsibility for the airport. Is the cadastral survey the same as what was done with the drone, or is this something else?
No, that sounds more like a real estate kind of a survey, which probably the BLM, they have surveyors in Moab that would come down and do that. I haven't heard anything about that. To put the actual points on the ground that are the airport, I thought that would have been done before, but I guess I really haven't seen any stakes out there. So that's different. The other inventory was the asphalt itself.
All right. So anybody have any questions or comments?
Thanks for doing the hard work there, buddy.
This is, I have no idea what the time frame would be, but we have started talking about the eclipse, and the airport could be really important in terms of people getting hurt. It's in October, so it's probably really important for us to make sure, if you're getting work done, that it doesn't happen in October.
It sounds like the engineer wants to get the resealing of the asphalt done this winter while the weather's cool, with repainting it in the spring. So it'd all be done way before the time comes to an end.
That's perfect. Great.
Perfect. Any other discussion or questions? Then all in favor of the 10% match up to
12,500, I think he said.
12,500. Okay. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Jim, thank you. You have to promise, now that we've agreed to this, that you'll make it at least another 2 years as manager, so that, maybe 3 years, so that I don't have to look for a replacement manager who will be impossible to find.
As long as I can walk in, I'll be there. And I'll go ahead and let the engineering company agree or know that the town has done this so he can get on with his grant requests.
How
That
about,
sounds-
Mayor, while we got Jim here, removal of that debris, are we all set on that? Is that something we need to talk about now or no?
No, it's on for next week. Just an update on Glenn Gurney's debris that's been left that I believe is abandoned. He has an attorney, Mr. Halls, up in Blanding, and I have sent off the third request to Mr. Halls to respond with proof of compliance with what Mr. Gurney believes is his lease. And I'd like to wrap this up by the first of the year to authorize having it removed. So I'm giving him one more week for response, and I'll have our attorney give me the thumbs up to have that removed by the first of the year or whenever it's convenient for Mr. Hook to get that done. Yep. Thanks, Brandon.
Thank you.
Up for a vote. Okay. Thank you. All right, moving to number 5, the update on the Public Trust Investment Fund, the PTIF. Linda, do you want to do the update?
The PTIF is ready to go. It is a investment account. I talked to someone at the state today, and what happens is we transfer money from our checking account to our PTIF account, or withdraw money from one to another. So to do that, we get on the what's called the iPass site website, and it's directly, our account's connected directly to our bank account. So what we would do before we do that is probably next meeting, vote on how much we should transfer for our initial amount and who is involved in the transfer.
Thanks, Linda.
So I just put it on for a vote for next week on the amount. And I know our accountant was weighing in on the amount. I just had a couple quick questions for him. I was waiting for Linda to clear how we do the transfer. And then next week we'll also have to vote on who's authorized to do the transfer. But it probably makes the most sense to have the person who's managing the money and paying the bills do that with a backup. So give it some thought on how we can do this. Thanks, Linda. Then number 6, discussion and vote on the business owners of Bluff's request for $3,000 for production of RIP maps. I alluded to it when we were talking about the recycling. It seems to me like we need to set a policy, a generic policy as to how we treat requests and kind of prioritize what our spending looks like for requests for non-governmental expenditures. And I'm hoping that the RIP map, since we're in the down season right now, that can wait, be a part of our work session discussion in January, unless somebody wants to, ask some further questions here, have any other information.
I think we should look at it in January at our work session, Mayor. There's time for that.
Anyone else?
I did talk to Jen briefly. I came across her this week and asked for the paperwork from the county where they gave her the prices. And I explained to her that we have to have paperwork in a process. So she will be getting that to us at some point. Basically the quote.
Lou, were you going to say something?
Well, it just seems like this is a little different circumstance because it's just basically a fund donation to the businesses of Bluff to use for what they need to use it for. Last year they went to the conference. Seems to me like maybe we could have a standing amount. It's the same amount, happens to be, where we just give that to them to do as they please with it.
On the accounting side, especially with our audits, we have to be really specific. So I really don't see us giving amounts of money to people. With the last year, they went on the trip to Reno, I think, to go to a something related to business, and we actually paid for the registration for that. So we didn't give them the money, but we paid the bill for it. So that's kind of our procedure.
That makes sense. And then, as far as the timing, and Jen will know more on that, but it's something that would want to have enough lead time, which is why they're working on it now, to get it in, to get it printed, to get it back before the season starts. There's always a lag time. And
When do they normally want it, Lou? Like, do you have an idea of what month?
no, well, just by March, I mean, they would want them ready to go. They're completely out, is what she said at the last meeting.
Uh-huh.
And
So March is kind of the annual target date.
right. And I don't know. I'm not involved in the printing or anything. I just know that that's why they are working on it early, so that they can get it in and get it back out and use it the most effectively.
Well, if we talk next week about a work session, we could get a work session in right after the first of the year, and be able to have that on the first meeting for a discussion and vote. And it could be that Lou's correct. It's something that's separate and different from what the policy might be, but I think that's why we need to talk about it. So is everyone okay with just deferring this, having talk about the work session next week, have this be a part of the work session, and then having it on that January 10th agenda?
Yeah.
Anything further on that? So I know nobody really wants to think about the 2023 elections when we're just barely out of the 2022, but I received the notice from the state of Utah on elections for 2023. And so at some point, I'll get this to Aaron or Linda to put up on our website, but the candidate filing dates will be the week of June 1st to the 7th. So just for point of information, I believe that we will have 2 council seats that are open. One would be Brant Murray's, one would be Jim Sayers. So if somebody were going to file for those dates, including Jim or Brant, it's going to be June 1 through June 7. The primary election day is August 15th. And then the general election day is November 7th. The election official, Shelley Jackson, with the Lieutenant Governor's office, she's the Deputy Elections Director, said not to stress about this until after we get through the first of the year. So I'm going to save my stress about this. What I'd really like to do is have the council, rather than having San Juan County, who runs our elections, kind of give us the dates we want them here, the dates that we would have a drop box, the dates that they do the voting. I think we need to give them the schedule in writing of what we want, and that we would need to do probably the first part of the year, but it didn't work well this year. People came in to drop their ballots on the 8th. The box got picked up on the 8th in the middle of the day. They were to have picked it up on the 7th. They didn't have the calibration done for the first in-person voting, so people showed up to do one of the 2 in-person votings and they couldn't do it. They had to have their paper ballot. So I really think we need to be more proactive this year than we were last year. And I'll take the blame for that. I really thought we had it together and we just didn't. So this year I'd like to have a discussion in January or so to get out those guidelines to the county. Anything on that? Any thoughts? All right, then moving to number 8, which kind of ties to Jim's sustaining cultural heritage collections. So you might remember that I had a request from Leon Jones back in, I don't know when it was, several months back. And Gene Stevenson had done a couple of oral interviews of Melvin Gaines this past year. We got a recorder for Gene to use, and he gave me the recorder back. And Leon was given those interviews to put in his book that he's writing about Melvin. And I'll just read his email because he updated things, sent the recorder back to us this week. And he said, "We are making good progress on the book. I was slowed by several months of medical surgeries for my wife. She's getting better and we are finishing details. The interviews by Gene Stevenson were a great addition to the book. Others have also shared stories. Brant Hart has shared pictures and some stories. He also shared emails of Mark Powell, Jerry Howell, Jim Hook, and Gene Stevenson. Gene has reached out and requested to review the book before it is printed. I have asked for any description of Melvin and his contributions to Bluff. I would welcome a statement and anything else you would be willing to share. I also have asked for a picture of each contributor and would ask you for the same if you don't mind. I'm mailing the recorder now that I'm finished with it." So we have the recorder. If anyone listening to this or anyone listening to this knows of somebody that should reach out to Leon, let us know. We've got his contact information. And it sounds like he's working really hard on getting this book out and making a part of this interview process that Gene Stevenson did. And then Jim, you should think about how you want us to store that recording and how to do this so that we've got it.
Well, with any luck, we can get someone trained in how to store it.
Well, I have it in the office. I'll secure it in the lock file cabinet
Yeah. Right now that's what we've got.
Okay, I'll get it secured and tucked away, and that will be in a locked file cabinet.
Jennifer Ortiz with the History Center may be able to give us an idea when they reached out. So when I get back, I'll try to call her next week or something.
Okay, that sounds good, Brant. Well, we'll hold on to it, and hopefully I'll get it there before something happens to it. It's on my desk. Number 9, report on Bluff Waterworks budget hearing, a meeting of December 7th, 2022. Linda, I believe you went to that.
Yes, I went to the budget meeting, and there were some increases during the year that were one-time things. They upgraded the meter reading system, billing software. They had some increases with chemicals. These were one-time costs. So other than that, the budget for 2023 is pretty similar to the budget for 2022. I mentioned the eclipse to them, which they weren't familiar with yet. So they're thinking about what they might need to do with our water system. The water system is in good working order. Marks is researching the difference between water use in the winter and the summer, which is something like 20,000 gallons versus 4,000 gallons. And he's looking at the possibility of a secondary water system to help protect the culinary water. And they talked briefly about maybe changing the day that they meet or the time so that more of the public so it'd be easier for the public to attend meetings.
That would be good. Thanks, Linda, for getting there. I had a conflict and couldn't go, but for anybody who's interested, if you let me know by email or leave a message at the office, I have a copy of the budget and can make it available to people.
Thank you.
If there's nothing further on that, then we'll move to the number 10, report on International Dark Sky pre-application discussion for local committee. Yeah, Lou, did you?
I just follow up on that budget. Is that something you can just scan in and send to us so we can just take a scan of it?
So when you say us, are you referring to the council?
Yeah, I'll just send it out to the council so we can have a little easier access to it. Or if Aaron's got it.
I can scan it. If you remind me by the end of the week, if you haven't seen it, remind me. Because tomorrow I'm gone in meetings all day, and then I have to be in Durango tomorrow night, and then I'll come back from Durango in time for the dinner on Thursday. But I will try to get it done before I get going in the morning. But yeah, and if anybody else wants it, I don't think it's appropriate, just in case this question comes up, I don't think it's appropriate that we post on our website someone else's budget. I think that it's not a good practice, and it also can be very confusing. But if you individually want to ask for a copy, I'm happy to send it by email. It's a public record. Then going back to 10, this focuses around the International Dark Sky pre-application, the need for a local committee, and the San Juan County meeting on planning for the eclipse that was held December 12th, yesterday. Aaron, do you want to take that to start, and then Linda?
Yep, I can start on the International Dark Sky pre-application. So there's a very, very basic form that we filled out. Sarah Burek and I filled out that essentially just lists our contact information and just our interest in applying to become a dark sky community. And so that was submitted. The next step is someone from their organization will reach out to us and then kind of start the process. Usually applications take between 18 months up to 3 years to actually kind of go through all the procedural stuff. So this was just like the very, very basic, hey, we're interested, please put us in the queue. So once we have someone reach out from their organization, I will provide you all an update on that.
And my understanding, Aaron, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that the biggest piece that Dr. Barentine told us that most communities get stuck on is not having an appropriate lighting ordinance, and we have that. So one of the big, and the education, and we have that in place. So hopefully we can move it more quickly, but thank you very much for you two getting that done. Then go ahead.
Thank you.
Do you want to talk about the idea of a local committee along with kind of the San Juan County meeting, Aaron?
Sure. So for the solar eclipse taking place on October 14th, 2023, we have been alerted by some various organizations that there might be some pretty impressive increased visitation to our area since we're in the line of totality. I know we talked about this on some other calls. I think based on what we're seeing and hearing from other organizations, it would behoove us to put together an ad hoc committee, a town committee that can advise the town council, definitely an advisory committee. But we really need to put some very solid planning in place in order to make sure that we are setting ourselves up for success. We want to make sure this is a safe and enjoyable event, an occurrence, really. It's not really an event. We're not hosting an event. We're making sure that this is an occurrence, a one-day occurrence that's safe and good for everyone, residents and visitors. I think we really want to stress this, that we want the visitors to have a good time, but we want our residents to also, make sure that they feel as though they're being supported. And so I would like to propose, and I think the town council, just having a committee to meet on a semi-regular basis to put together the plans. This was really reinforced when we had a meeting yesterday. So the San Juan County Economic Development team hosted a meeting yesterday. There was not a whole lot of participation from the other cities, but Bluff had good representation with myself, Anne, and Linda present. But really what I'm hearing is that we really need to have our plan in place locally, because the county's take, at least the people who are kind of running this from the county side, are definitely more focused on the tourist aspect. And I think it would be up to us at the local level to ensure that we have the safety aspects managed, and that we plan ahead. So I've put some thought into it. And if the council were to approve a committee, I would like to have some semi-regular meetings with some very specific topics that we'd address each time. And, Anne, I don't know what else you'd like me to speak about right now in terms of kind of what my logistical brain is going through, or if, I can just pass this back to the council to speak about a little bit.
So one of the things that has been clear for the last 8 or 9 months since I've been hearing about it and reading about it is this eclipse is a really big deal. And so much of what has to happen is management. It's working with to figure out whether the BLM is going to provide any services, whether or not Forest Service is providing services, whether or not UDOT is providing anything. And kind of the short answer is no, it looks like they're not doing any of those things. And so Aaron and Linda and I have been brainstorming, and it seems like the best thing would be this ad hoc committee. I would suggest that we have our manager be the chair of that, reporting back directly to us. And part of the rationale is that this falls directly within Aaron or the town manager's duties, management. And there's going to be a lot of management and a lot of commitment that has to be made by the council. And I'll just draw attention to one immediate need. As we all know, the wash divides the highway. Emergency services are on one side. On the other side are big camping areas that have access off the highway onto BLM and Sitla land, and we're going to be slammed. There's no doubt about it. And so I would like to see Aaron appointed as the chair, and then allow Aaron to develop that committee, reporting back to us on a regular basis. I intend to participate in the committee, but I don't want to chair it. I think this better chaired from the management view of what we need to do.
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to do that and have her reach out to BLM, Sitla, and all the partners that are going to be affected by that. So I think it's a great idea, and Aaron has the capacity and the smarts to get this thing done. So I think that's a great idea.
Second.
I will give the council an opportunity if any of you want to volunteer to chair it. Okay.
Thank you so much.
Any other discussion? Linda, do you have anything you want to add about what we heard yesterday, or your thoughts before we take the vote?
There are just all kinds of details, so many details, and the webinars and things that we've gone to, planning is huge. I mean, we're talking 20,000 people, and economic development is talking about figuring out ways to keep them here. One really important thing is if there are other events happening, the recommendation was don't have them on the day of the eclipse, have them on the sides. But I think the room would be great.
Yeah, that sounds sensible.
So all in favor of having our manager chair the committee and form that committee? I reviewed all in favor say aye.
All right.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? And just so you know, Erin has done a draft of a blast out for request for interest, so she'll be getting that out. And then we'll just see. I'm sure we'll have a lot of community participation, but the goal is safety and enjoyment. it's not within our means to do a whole lot more, but.
There should be some cities that have hosted before that have information, some historical stuff. So I think we can reach out. Maybe the city or city league or some of those guys can help.
Yeah, there's a lot of resources in the webinars that Linda and Aaron and I have attended. We've got a pretty good list of resources, but yeah, more information, the better. Thank you. And thanks for getting that pre-application in. Let's get this on the road. Then Lou, did you go to the planning and zoning meeting on December 7th? And do you want to do the update?
Sure. I went, Aaron did do the update for the town for me that night. But anyway, yes, I did go. There were no land use clearances. Just a second here, I've got my notes. Yeah, so it was a pretty short meeting. There, they did welcome Malia on as the new commissioner. They had two updates to the from the community. Adrian from Yes Tomorrow, and then the Active Transportation Committee, Molly Schmidt. She gave them both the updates, and Adrian had done a Yes Tomorrow for our council, and it was similar to that what she did for the planning and zoning, and the same with the Active Transportation Committee. Molly gave that update as far as like the upcoming workshops that will be in the new year after the first of the year. And they all gave her a lot of great support coming from what they'd started with the general plan and whatnot. To see it coming to fruition was a good encouragement to her, I feel like. The 21st meeting has been rescheduled to January 4th.
Actually, sorry, a real quick update. We did receive an email. They will need to have the the December 21st meeting because they do have an LUC that came in.
Oh, they do?
It'll be
Okay.
a brief meeting. Okay. They'll have one. Sorry.
Okay. That's okay. That's good to know. That was, anyway, that was sort of the debate as whether they didn't want to hold up any LUCs. But so the next meeting will be the 21st. And I think that was pretty much it.
Thanks, Lou.
Did you have anything else, Aaron?
No, sorry to cut you off.
No, that's it, but just that seemed like all that really.
Yeah, they did talk about their schedule for next year, and that will be posted. It'll be finalized and posted in the near future. But I know we have some internal discussion going on just to make sure that they have an appropriate schedule set for next year.
And so, just so that everybody knows, when I looked at the schedule, it looked fine with one exception. I asked to get on their agenda for the next meeting because I'd like to just offer an opinion that I'd like to see them have a meeting between the last June meeting and the next July meeting. It goes 5 weeks, I believe, without a meeting scheduled. And it's so much easier to cancel than it is to add that meeting. But also that seems to me kind of to be a time that people might be building and needing land use clearances, and it's over the kind of holidays stuck in there. And so I'd like to see them pick a date. It is up to them, and I'm only doing it as a nudge. And if they choose to not do it, that's fine. I don't want people to feel I'm controlling it, but I just would like to say I'd like to see it, partly because it's easier to cancel than to start scrambling when people need a land use clearance. But so that's the internal discussion that Aaron's referring to. And again, thank you to Planning and Zoning for everything you're doing, and thank you, Malia Collins, for stepping up. We do still have one open spot. If you're interested, let Aaron or myself know, or let Planning and Zoning know. It'll stay open until it's filled. Then Linda, short-term rental renewal.
I have sent out almost every short-term rental renewal letter. I have, I think, one or two to do, and have gotten, people have been sending their fees in. They have started doing that. It's, last year we did a one-time fee, initial fee, And now we have just the regular fee, which is $25. And like Lou said earlier, there are no new residential licenses. Commercial is different, but last year at December 31st was the end of people being able to apply for residential.
Thanks for sending that out, Linda. Is it $25 per unit or per license?
Per unit.
So we're down to, if there are no other questions for Linda, we're down to the other. I have one other. I've let AmeriCorps Gold 5 know that they can spend their last night in town at the community center. And Linda had jokingly said, do they need extra snacks? So I asked them, and this is the response that came in. Extra snacks are always appreciated, but never expected. So I guess if anybody's got a bag of cookies they want to get rid of or something, the community center will be over there from 7 on Thursday night. You can feel free to drop it off. I do want to say the dinner is limited to the people that have been involved, just because A, of COVID, B, we don't have that in the budget, and we're kind of working off of donations on this. So thank you to everyone who supported them. Any other?
Gold Star 5, and thanks council. Motion to adjourn.
It's 7:06.
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Thanks all, and Jim Hook, thanks again for all you're doing for that
Thanks,
airport.
Hook. Everybody. Be
Thank you
safe.
very much. Have a good evening. Be safe.
Good night.